Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Shamrock Show. Got my co-host Jack with me for a little bit for the intro here. Appreciate you guys being here. Got to shout out the sponsors, the Second Chance Gym, Preston, Connecticut. Great old school boxing gym. Came through with this hoodie for me. Got the Shamrock boxing logo on the old meat hook. Check them out, Second Chance Gym on Facebook. Great spot. Tell Jody Shamrock sent you. You get a day to check it out for free. See if it's for you. If you're interested in becoming a fighter or just looking to get in shape, man, that's the spot to go to. I'm sure Jack would go like to train there with me. You can see him up in the shot because he is loving me today. The Shamrock Show is also brought to you by the law firm of Stephen Reck and Scott Kamm. Scott is my guy. Highly recommend him. No matter what your situation is, if you've been hurt in an accident, medical malpractice, wrongful death suit, maybe you sprayed Gorilla Glue in your hair and you didn't think that that would be a problem because there was no warning on the label. Check out Scott, the law firm of Stephen Reck and Scott Kamm. Check him out online at stephenreck.net. That's STEPHENRECK.net. Check him out on Facebook as well. My man Scott will get you paid in 2021. Growing my beard back out, and there's no way I could do it without Beard Octane, oils, conditioners, brushes, you name it. Beard Octane, beardoctane.com, Shamrock 10. Use that code to get you 10% off. Go check them out, man. They got some great products, make great gifts. So, without any further ado, we're going to get into this episode. Hey, Shamrock Show, episode 24. This one's called The Last Blockbuster. Documentary I caught on Amazon one night, and it was really cool. Anybody who knows me, I'm a sucker for sentimentality. I'm a sucker for nostalgia. If you were to get in my car, all my music is late 90s, early 2000s, even early 90s, man. Just my high school, my junior high school days, my summers after high school. Brings back a lot of memories of being young and carefree. And in the summer of 1999, myself and my buddy Jimmy Bletch, if you're local, what's up, Jimmy? We both worked at Blockbuster in Norwich, Connecticut, which is now a restaurant called Fat Cats, if you're in the area. Good spot, recommend them. No sponsor, no plug there. I don't even know if they like me, but I like that spot. So, Blockbuster was one of my first jobs after high school. And it was a lot of fun working there, but it even brings me back further to a time, man, when I was a kid, growing up in Jewett City, Connecticut. We didn't have a Blockbuster, but we had two local we had a local theater, but we had two local video stores. We had an Act One Video, and we had a Video Galaxy. And to go back to those times, for you guys in your 20s, my stepdaughter just turned 14. She's never been to a movie store. And it was a lot of fun, and watching the movie brought back a lot of memories and brought back a lot of things. You'll hear us talk about like the social aspect of it, which subconsciously maybe I recognized, but you'll see what I'm saying when you watch it. I didn't even realize it was there, but it is a social part of the experience that we're missing now. And just, it was a cool way to find movies, right? So like, let's say you were, I don't know, I'm a Ben Affleck fan. I know you guys will hate on that. I'm a Ben Affleck fan. But before the internet, you didn't know when like all the new movies were going to come out, especially if they weren't like Blockbuster. So you're going through, not Blockbuster store, like big Blockbuster movies, straight to DVD releases. And, having somebody who worked at the movie store, man, when you worked there, the people who worked there, they really knew their shit. And they could see from what you used to rent, what kind of movies you liked. They would make recommendations to you and put you on to stuff. It was always fun when you would pick up a movie and somebody next to you is like, oh, that sucked, don't get it, or whatever. It was just the whole experience of itself. Long before Netflix and chill, we said, let's make it a Blockbuster night. It was one of their commercials, and this kind of came into, people would say that the same way you saw Netflix and chill these days. So me and Zeke Kamm is the writer, and he's a filmmaker. He's done a lot of stuff. If you check him out online. He agreed to come on the podcast. I hit him up after watching the movie. It was kind of hard to track down because he's not a social media guy. And, he told me a lot about the passion that goes into making an independent film. And we talk a little bit about the struggles with people bootlegging and pirating and how that really does hurt the art as a whole. And we dig into just that Last Blockbuster. It exists in Bend, Oregon. And how it's still alive and what they're doing over there and what they're doing differently. Something you'll see in the movie, a lot of people think that Netflix killed Blockbuster, but they didn't. Netflix actually tried to go to Blockbuster to get bought out, and Blockbuster still, made the silly mistake of turning them down. But Blockbuster was owned by Viacom, which is a huge media conglomerate. It also owns Bellator MMA, which I'm a big fan of. And they said that it really came down to some bad investments and some bad moves by Blockbuster. And I got to thinking about it, right? So if that's true, could a video store, could they still be existing today? And if you go out, if you go to Walmart, if you go to Best Buy, there's still a pretty big significant section of DVDs for sale and video games for sale. There's still FYE and some different music stores in our local mall that's about to go out of business. But I think the market could be there for it, man. I think that somebody with a dream, you would have to adapt. It would have to be, like when you go to the record store, I call it a record store, I'm that old. You go to a music store, it's significantly a small section of music, but there's merchandise, little pop dolls. I got, we can see them up there, but we got Shaq, Biggie, and Pac up on the light, candy, food, just like novelty stuff. And I think Blockbuster could have adapted that way. Blockbuster also to me was really special. I lived in California, and I was kind of on my own out there, and they had a plan where you could rent unlimited movies, and I got to know some of the people at the Blockbuster store, and that's another reason that it adds to the sentimentality of it. I just really enjoyed movies growing up. I enjoyed renting movies. My dad owned a pizza restaurant called the Green Onion in North Stonington, Connecticut, and as a teenager, I worked there Saturday nights, but I would go there for the whole day with him, and I would go down. There was a North Stonington Video Bank, shout out to them, way, way long past out of existence, but I would go there, and I would actually you could rent a DVD player or a VCR. I actually rented a Laserdisc player. I never owned Laserdisc. It's a whole technology that skipped me. But, and it was fun, man. It was a whole experience. The smell of the place, the look of the place, really holding the package, and you see the cover of a movie and deciding, yeah, this is for me or this is not for me. Because I couldn't go on your phone and look at YouTube and look at the trailers. And for sure, it's got its negatives, right? You go rent a movie, you couldn't get it. You go rent a movie and it sucks. Listen, I'm not even saying it was better. It's just, it was a fun experience, and everything is so instant gratification right now, and that's awesome, man. You don't have to wait for things. You can get things fucking Amazon same day. But I think the social experience of life is being dwindled down, and especially in times like this, man, where we're in quarantine and people are dying to be social. There was a time, man, where people were a lot more social, where we talked to strangers, and we made it through without dying. But with no further ado, Shamrock Show, episode 24, The Last Blockbuster, coming right at you right now. Like, share, subscribe. I appreciate the support, the love, man. I try to respond to every comment. You guys are awesome. I can't believe the numbers this thing is doing. 2021, we're bringing a lot of good stuff.
Welcome to the Shamrock Show. Sit down, have a listen, and go fuck yourself.
The Shamrock Show.
In a world where video stores have all but disappeared.
I mean, look at the James Bond section. Every James Bond movie. Every Avatar movie, because, there's just the one so far.
I hate late fees, but I understand that you had to do it, otherwise people just keep those videos. I know I did.
Meet Sandy, the Blockbuster mom.
So when I started in 2004, Blockbuster Video had roughly 9,000 stores and over 60,000 employees. And now...
Do I miss renting from a physical store? No, absolutely not. I don't think anybody does.
We just need Pacific Video to send us a notice that they are exercising their fourth and final renewal option. So yeah, that kind of scared me a little bit.
I mean, how long until companies don't even make DVDs, period? And then I don't know what.
Did you know that Blockbuster had a chance to buy Netflix, but they didn't?
Now that to me is crazy.
It is truly the last standing bastion of a bygone era.
Hey, that's cool, that the last Blockbuster in existence is right here in my hometown.
If there's some cats in Oregon still scratching it out, with Be Kind, Rewind, nothing wrong with that. That's beautiful.
So somehow I came across the movie for the Last Blockbuster. I forget if I saw a trailer on YouTube or on Twitter or something like that. And immediately when I saw it, I was like, well, this is a movie I have to see. One, I'm the world's biggest sucker for nostalgia, sentimentality, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So anything that I'm 39, so anything that brings me back to the 90s, I'm all in on. I was like, well, like the movie is very, very good, but you were starting at the 4 yard line. Like you would have had to make a horrible movie for me not to like love the movie, because I have some attachments to Blockbuster in those times. But so did your living in Oregon have anything to do with getting started on the movie, or did you move there after you started doing the movie, or just two unrelated incidents?
So I moved here just to get away from Los Angeles.
Okay.
It can be a pretty toxic environment, and when it takes you an hour to drive a mile and a half to the grocery store, that starts to wear on you. So my wife and I had a baby, and when he was 1, we were like, let's go, let's get out of here. So we came to Central Oregon just because it looked like a nice place to stop and figure out where do we want to be. And many years later, a friend of mine who's a filmmaker in town, a successful documentary filmmaker, Taylor Morden, he was finishing up his ska documentary, and he came over to my house just to hang out because we're buddies. And I had not taken more than a day off in 3 years. I just had a ton of client work, and I said, hey, I'm taking this whole weekend off. Come over and watch this movie. Is my favorite independent foreign film. And he comes over, and right before I start it, he says, hey, can I tell you this idea I have? And he pitches me, basically, let's make a documentary about Blockbuster. At the time, I think there were 12 left or something. And I was like, I didn't know there were any left.
Yeah.
And he said, yeah, the one in town is still in business. And I said, oh my God, I've driven past it so many times and I always thought it was just a sign that they hadn't taken down in an abandoned area. And he's like, nope, they're still going. And I was like, oh man, there's no way there's going to be 12 left for very long. It's just not going to happen. Yeah, let's do it. So I did take a weekend off, but it was 3 years later after that.
Jeez,
we just started working on it right away and didn't stop.
Yeah, myself, I had no idea there was any left. And a couple years back, I remember seeing that there was the one in Oregon and then in Alaska because there was an issue with internet service or something like that. And that was one of the reasons keeping it alive up in Alaska.
There were 3, I think, in Alaska.
Yeah.
Except for there was 2, I think, in New Zealand. But other than those, the 3 in Alaska were the last ones other than the one here in Bend, Oregon. And a different guy ran those ones, owned those ones than the one here.
Yeah, so I worked at a Blockbuster for a time in 1999. It was my first summer after high school. But growing up, more in the town I lived in, we more had a couple independent chains, and the Blockbuster was, it was just like a couple towns over, but I didn't have a whole lot of experience going to a Blockbuster as much as I did the local ones. But the thing that hit me, and I was thinking of it, and then when the guy said it in the film, the smell of Blockbuster, like you should make that can be made into a Yankee Candle, and you get a bunch of dorks like me who would be all in on it because, man, I'm watching the movie and I could like taste it in my mouth. And the guy said it like plastic and popcorn. I was like, yes, man, the fucking smell of a Blockbuster is, and it's great that it still smells the same, that the people in the film were saying that was something that just hit them right away.
It does still smell exactly the same.
Yeah, I worked at a Blockbuster and in a movie theater. So I've had the retail side of the movie business covered all around in my teenage years.
Excellent.
Yeah,
we were similar in my town. So I'm older. I'm about 10, did you say 39?
Yeah, I'll be 40 this year.
Yeah, so I'm 10 years older than you. And so Blockbuster wasn't really a thing when I was in high school. we just had independent stores. So I'm sure my town, by the time I went to college, I'm sure my town got a Blockbuster. But I was older when I started going to Blockbusters. I was already working in entertainment studios and stuff. So it's cool. It's like, I think people your age are even more connected to it because it was even more formative for your age.
It was really coming in at that time. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have another real sentimental attachment to Blockbuster, which is another reason I was so hooked into the film. In 2004, I moved to San Francisco. I moved from out here east with a girl who was going to go to college out there, and we broke up like 2 weeks after I moved there. But we were like,
always happens.
Yeah, like, but I was like 24, and I'm like, fuck it, I'll go to California. You know what I mean? I had never been at the time, and just moved out there, and she was going to school. But we're locked into this lease, so we were just cohabitating as roommates. And I had a hard time finding a job because, you know, from coming from a smaller town in the East Coast to go to San Francisco, it's like there's guys with like PhDs working at a Blockbuster. You know, there's just the crowd to choose from for a job was really competitive. And there was a Blockbuster on my block where I lived in San Francisco, and like that's how I met people, like the employees of that store. I would go down while this girl was at work and at school and doing her thing. I had nothing going on, just burning through my savings. And the people at the Blockbuster were so dope, man. You know, everyone in California just has like a way cooler fucking, to me anyway, being an East Coast guy, I think everyone out here is kind of an asshole. Everyone out West is a little bit more laid back. And the people at the Blockbuster, they put me on to a lot of cool movies. And they had a thing going on at the time to compete with the early days of Netflix, where you paid, I want to say it was like $30 a month, and you could just rent unlimited videos. Like you would go down and just grab, and like I think you could grab a max of 5 at a time, whatever it was, and I would just burn through them. But that Blockbuster was like my only connection to a social life for like a small period of time in my life. So I'm like,
well, I'm sure you saw in the movie, like it was like that for a lot of people. Like it was a main hub of social interaction, which is one of the bummers about losing it. Is, you know, you still have the library, but it's not quite the same because you're supposed to be quiet in the library, and it's a little weird if you talk to somebody in the library. But at Blockbuster, they'd be open till midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning, and you could go down and meet new people or meet friends and not spend any money if you wanted to not spend any money.
Yeah. Well, see, so, and that's how it hit me, because I hadn't thought of losing the social aspect of it. Like to me, there was a time where I moved to a city and I didn't know anybody, so it was just kind of cool getting to know people. But then the way it was phrased in the movie, you really think about it, like, yeah, you would go into a Blockbuster or any video store and you look at something, and someone who you never met would be like, oh, I saw that, it sucks, or oh, I saw that, it was great. And you start just like going back and forth, and it did kind of become a thing, you know. And I feel like, man, that's like the soul of that is like what's missing from everything. But you know, to really hear somebody talk about it in the movie, it was like it was subconsciously there, and I didn't even think about it. If someone ever asked me what I thought, if I like what I would miss about a Blockbuster, I would never even thought of the social aspect of it, because it was so in the back of my head. But it was part of the deal, man. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that was one of the reasons why, when we started talking to people, interviewing them for the movie, why it was heavier than they were expecting. Like, you know, the movie's a comedy. We tried to make a funny documentary.
Yeah.
But it's nice that it also has weight too.
Well, I think depending on the age group, man, that might land differently. Like it was funny, right? But like I also, like I said, it kind of hit me in the heart. But maybe somebody who never went to a Blockbuster, you know, somebody who's in their 20s now, man, maybe it might hit them just strictly as a comedy. Oh, look at this goofy shit, you know what I mean? Like it might.
Yeah, I can't believe people did that.
Yeah. But you know, I was talking to somebody else too, and the challenge of getting a movie, right? Like these days, everything is so instant gratification, and that has its pluses. But like to go to Blockbuster on a Friday night and not get the movie you wanted, like that disappointed, but it made it so great when you did get it. You know what I mean? Yeah. And like to argue not being able to get something as a positive is kind of an odd statement to make. But I think that not having the ability just to get it makes you really value it more.
This is something that I discussed a lot with my partner on the movie, Taylor.
Yeah.
We were like, because you can just get almost anything especially if you're willing to pay a couple bucks. But even if you don't want to pay a couple bucks, if you just have a couple different movie streaming services,
Yeah.
you can get almost anything that's ever come out. So it reduces the value of it because you can just get it. And if you want to, if the first 5 minutes seems boring, you just turn it off and put something else on. Well, some of my favorite movies in my whole life, if I could have stopped in 5 minutes and watched something else, I would have, and I never would have experienced it. But I was like, you know what? I paid my $3.99.
Right, you're committed to it.
I'm going to watch this. I'm not going all the way back down there to get another one. You know, there were lines. If you went down there, you had to search through everything, find stuff, read the backs, and then you had to stand in line to get it, and then go all the way home. And if the wrong video was in there, you'd be like, no, right?
Yeah, dude, that's funny because that would definitely happen, man. That's so funny.
So the stuff has more value because you put all that effort into getting it.
Right.
And it's kind of a bummer. Like, you know, now I'll do it too. You know, I'll spend more time on Netflix sifting through the list of stuff that's there some nights than watching actual content.
Yeah, you hit something for a few minutes and I'm not into it. Right.
Yeah.
Like renting video games would hit the same way too, you know, like where you spend, and usually video games cost a little bit more, so you drop $5 on a video game and you're stuck with that for the weekend. You know, that's your weekend no matter what. It's not like now we just download.
You don't like it, you're gonna play it anyway.
Right. So I get, obviously the ones, like I said, the ones in Alaska, I had read that, you know, internet issues had to do with it. What is it that you think that is, I didn't really catch from the movie why exactly, why is it that you think that this one in Bend, Oregon is still hitting? Is it because that the manager is just the greatest manager of all, like, I didn't really get a conclusion out of the movie as to why this one was still there, other than the guy who was kind of talking from his mom's basement about what a weird town it happened to be, you know?
That was actually, he actually has his own apartment.
Oh, okay.
It does look like that. Yeah.
Sorry, guy.
So I think that the biggest reason is that the guy who owns this one, as long as it's not losing money, he's going to keep doing it because he likes that it contributes to the town. And he, you know, the employees there are like family to him. They've employed such a huge percentage of the kids that live in town here over the years. And I think it's meaningful to him, you know. He started it as an independent video store when he was a lot younger. And I just think it's really nice for him to have it. So as long as they're not losing money, he wants to keep it open. So, you know, a lot of business owners would be like, we're not making enough, so it's not worth the effort. But I think for him, you know, he wouldn't ever answer that question straight.
So you think that the market is out there where if somebody was in a mind frame like that, where they wanted to run a video rental store, they didn't care that they didn't lose money, like that could be a feasible business still?
I mean,
in the right town?
If you want to do something just to break even, there's lots of options out there.
Well,
and
you know,
I think video store would be a high risk at breaking even.
Well, that's what I was gonna say.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, before seeing this movie, I would have said that wouldn't even be possible to break even trying to do that, you know?
I think they might be breaking even because they're the last one.
Yeah. Well, it's clear they get a lot of tourism into it. You know, people come.
Yeah.
And I was already thinking, because like Oregon is a place that me and my girlfriend have talked about wanting to go anyway. And I'm like, even more like, fuck, I want to see that Blockbuster before it's gone.
It's beautiful out here. It's a lovely town. There's record stores too.
Yeah.
Well, one with a record store. There's a vintage arcade. So you can like really go back in time.
Yeah.
If you come here.
You got a lot of big names involved in the project, which after seeing how long you've been in Hollywood, it doesn't surprise me. When I first watched the flick, I'm like, wow, man, this guy got a ton of people involved. But I'm a huge Kevin Smith guy. So when I was seeing him in the movie, that hit a little bit more too, and I like made it a little bit more attractive because he's the first person that ever, not him specifically, he didn't like call me up, but like his movies were the first like indie flicks I ever checked out. You know what I mean? Like Clerks, and that was like my first exposure to something that wasn't, you know, mainstream Hollywood.
Sure. Yeah.
How did you get Kevin in on the flick? Do you know him? Did you know him already, or is this something through?
No, I didn't know him, but as soon as the first thing we did when Taylor was over and pitched me the idea of making a Blockbuster movie is we put a list together of who would be the best people to interview about this, and he was at the top of the list.
Yeah.
So we were like restless, you know, we're like, there's no way we're not going to give up until we get him. So we both put out feelers to everybody we know. Does anybody have any connections to him at all? And one of my best friends, who I had worked with in the past, James Arnold Taylor, who's in the movie, he's the guy who does the voice of Obi-Wan Kenobi and a bunch of other famous characters.
Yeah.
He had worked with a guy that owns a bar with him and works with
no
him.
way.
Yeah. So he's like, I'll put you in touch with him and see, you know, you're going to have to convince him on your own.
Yeah.
But I can at least put you in touch. And that's like 90% of the work is getting to the right person. And then the last 10% is convincing that person to let the celebrity know, you know, and then I guess 1% is convincing the celebrity.
So it's like me trying to get people on the podcast and the same kind of thing.
Yeah, if you ask the wrong person, like if you asked my son, hey, does Zeke want to be on this? He'd just be like, no. He wouldn't even ask me.
So I was trying to get a hold of you. You know, I was trying to check online, and it didn't seem like you're not a big social media guy. It seems like
I hate social media.
Yeah, which is a beautiful thing. You know, I've actually, I deleted my Instagram a while ago, which was like I used to love my Instagram, and you know, I just have a Twitter for the podcast. But I was trying to find like, well, all right, well, how can I get a hold of this guy? And then I found your email on that Nice Industry is when I Googled you, and I got a hold of you that way. So it's the same kind of struggle, you know?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's always best if you can get the actual person's direct contact.
Yeah, but when people use social media, it's a lot easier. You know, I had to do a lot of legwork to track you down. So it's like trying to get that rental on a Friday night that's out, man. I appreciate getting you.
I'm happy to do it.
What was your favorite part of making the movie, man?
There was a lot of really cool things about it, but the best was definitely just getting to know Sandy, the manager. She's just such an amazing person. I just love her. You know, Taylor and I both just fell in love with her, and we were like, I think our main goal needs to be to show Sandy in the movie in a way that people fall in love with her the way we fell in love with her. You know, like just don't get in the way of showing Sandy for how she really is. And I think we did that.
You definitely did. Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah,
like,
that definitely came across. That's why when I was kind of asking you, like, how is this place still open? Is it because she's the greatest manager of all time? It does seem that way. Like for her to, you know, take her time out and go to Walmart and buy the new DVDs and you know, not just deal with what she gets from the distributor, and it showed like her whole family had worked there. You know, you can tell that business is a part of her, you know, and that's hard to find in like a retail. I've done retail in my life. It's a nightmare, but it's hard to find in a retail employee for sure.
Yeah. I think if she decided she didn't want to do it anymore, I think that the owner would close it up.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense, man, because you're not going to replace somebody like that with that kind of dedication and that kind of attachment to it. But man, the whole thing was just a ride of like you're saying, you hanging out by the return bin, hoping that somebody drops off the movie, and the Be Kind Rewind, and even the employee pick section was great because it reminded me of that time when I was living in California. One of my favorite movies now, Things to Do in Denver When You're Dead. The Clerk put me on to. You ever see that flick?
I haven't, no.
It's a cool flick, but I was renting like maybe Usual Suspects or something. It's like, oh, if you like that movie, you're gonna like this movie, and that doesn't exist like across shopping. Like you go to Walmart, you know, you used to go to a department store and there was somebody who worked the toy section or this section. Like product knowledge doesn't exist in retail anymore, and especially in something as cool as movies, because people get a favorite movie, you know, and that kind of thing lands for you, you know.
Yeah, and the algorithms aren't the same thing. So, you know, on Netflix, when they recommend something, or on Hulu or Amazon, whatever, when they recommend something, oh, you watched this, you might like this, it's not a living recommendation.
Yeah.
It's a mathematical recommendation. And it might be right, but it's not the same thing as someone who remembers the other movies that, you know, that you've rented before, or they see the shirt you're wearing, you know, you got a Black Flag shirt on and they're like, oh, he's renting, you know, Mary Poppins, but he likes Black Flag. Oh, he should check out Forbidden Zone, right?
Yes.
Or whatever.
Right. And that's the element that's like, I feel bad for this. Like, you know, my daughter's about to be 14 and she's never going to get any, she's going to never have to wait for things like I did either. And that's, you know, if I remember back being a kid, and that's like, that's great too, I guess. But to have that kind of service and you know, like the movies I was talking about, like I'm pretty sure I was renting Usual Suspects. It's nothing like Things to Do in Denver When You're Dead. There's nothing that I could tell you why those two movies are alike, except that anyone who likes one of those movies is definitely going to like that other movie, and only somebody who knows what they're doing in the store is going to be able to tell you that, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
How so I imagine Sandy has gotten a bit of stardom out of this, yeah?
Oh, a ton. She's a full celebrity now.
Yeah, like when I was looking in YouTube, she's done interviews with, you know, like major media outlets. And how do you think that is going to help keep the store around even longer now? Like your movie may be responsible for keeping this small business alive, man. Like, and the amount of making her somebody who people want to like. Not only do I want to go see that Blockbuster someday, I'll be pissed off if Sandy isn't working when I go. You know what I mean? Like,
call ahead and find out. That was definitely part of our motivation. Like once we got into the film, at first we just thought this will be a fun movie to make. We both missed this time period when you could just go in and rent movies and everything.
Yeah. And
it felt meaningful to us. But once we got to know Ken, the owner, and Sandy, the manager, and the other people working at the store, we were like, we need to make sure that this movie helps keep them open as long as possible. So like they got an exclusive of our DVD release, DVD Blu-ray. You could only buy through them for the first, I don't know how many months, like 5 months or something. We did an exclusive. It was the first Blockbuster exclusive in like 10 years.
Oh, that's so sick, man.
And it's one of their, I think it's either the most or tied for the most sold item, best-selling item on their website. So it's definitely helping keep them open just financially from selling the profit they make from selling the DVD. And then also anybody who watches it online, hopefully then goes and either, you know, buys a sweatshirt from their website or makes a plan to come out and visit when it's safe to do that.
So I didn't realize there was a website, and I do need a Blockbuster shirt in my life, so we'll have to check that out. When you
Blockbuster. Yeah, bendblockbuster.com.
All right. So when you're making a movie like this, how much is DVD sales? Is that much of a factor at all right now? Like, is that something that is
definitely? So, you know, we did the whole movie just out of our own pocket. We did a Kickstarter, and that raised enough money to pay back some of the money we'd already put in. But that's basically just pre-selling DVDs. So essentially, really, we made the whole money just out of our own pocket. We paid for all of our own expenses. We didn't get paid for our time at all. Like, you know, when I get hired to make a film, I get paid a very fair amount of money per week or however long the process is going to be, or per project, whatever.
Yeah.
So taking on a movie that we were planning on spending a year on and ended up spending over 3, almost 4 years on, is very expensive. Even if you don't count what we would normally have been getting paid for
Right.
our jobs.
Just
But
your
once you-
cost of doing it.
Yeah, there's a very large cost, enough that you could buy a very nice house with. And then on top of that, how much we would have been getting paid if we were doing that for someone else, which we would have if we weren't busy making this. We're both successful filmmakers, so
Yeah.
we work pretty much as we want to. You're now looking at 3 houses or 4 houses worth of expense to make the film. So every DVD we sell, that we don't get the retail price, but we get almost the entire wholesale price once you subtract the cost of actually making it. So like those DVD sales really matter. It helps us be able to make other things in the future, because if this movie didn't do well, unfortunately it's doing really, really well. It was the #1 documentary on iTunes several weeks in a row.
Nice.
It's one of the top new releases on Amazon. It's doing really well, which is great. But yeah, if we put out the DVDs and nobody bought them, and nobody streamed it online, I don't think I'd be able to convince my wife that I can make another film anytime soon.
Yeah. Wow, that's even greater, man, to put that investment into it and see this kind of success on it. That's where I caught it, was on Amazon.
Great.
How much of a factor then, because this seems like it would be even more personal, are these like streaming sites? Like, I'm not I buy music. Sorry about that. I have friends like laugh at me because I don't steal music, but it's like, when it's like artists who I've been listening to, because to get in my car, it's still like 1995 in my car. You know what I mean? So if like Green Day puts out an album, that's a band I've liked since I was in 8th grade, I'm going to buy the Green Day album. And my friends are like, well, you can just, download it. Like, and I've got friends who use different, I won't even mention them because I don't want to give them any play, but like streaming movie sites. Like, how much of a factor is that into, one, your end on it, and 2, just really gauging the audience, like how many people have really seen the movie,
So streaming sites where people pay for it legally, we get a very small percentage of it, but we do get paid for that. And our cost is nothing beyond what the movie cost to make, because there's no physical thing. Nothing's getting shipped anywhere or anything. But, the streaming site takes a big chunk of
I'm more saying the illegal streaming sites, like
so the illegal ones, if somebody would have paid for it, if they couldn't find it illegally, then that really sucks. That when you do that, you're basically making it that person is less likely to make something else that you might like, right? So if you just steal Green Day's music all the time, well, if everybody does that, why would Green Day, have any idea how much money, physical effort, and emotional effort goes into making something? It's like, it's crazy. It's a crazy amount. There's arguing with spouses because you're spending too much time working on it. It's a really big thing. So if it's not worth it financially, you might continue to do stuff creatively, but why would you put it out?
No, and that's why I feel like my little drop in the water matters, because I think that music, just to use music as an example, I think music sucks these days, right? But it's like, well, if these record companies aren't making the money they used to, why would they invest in making a better product? So I think that if you don't pay for stuff, you can't complain that the radio sucks. And the same with movies, right? Like, if everyone's just watching movies on these streaming sites, but why the hell is anybody going to put out a good movie?
Yeah, I mean, it's such a high risk, financially, emotionally, and physically, to do these things. We flew all over to film stuff for this movie, and every time we flew, we were risking our gear getting stolen, or getting lost, getting in a car accident, or something happening at an airport, on top of being away from our family. I love filmmaking. It's one of my favorite things to do. Some days it's my favorite thing. Other days my favorite thing to do is to skate. Well, if I knew for sure that I had to spend thousands of dollars to make something that I was never going to make any money on, I'd probably spend it on skateboards.
Did you guys get any kind of theatrical release?
So we did, our premiere was at a drive-in.
Okay.
And then we also premiered in Canada at a drive-in. But because of the pandemic.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Tough time to put out a movie, because like we have a theater around here that does more like art house movies or independent,
Sure.
like a movie like yours would have come out on if it was, I mean, honestly, the big theaters around here are actually all going out of business. That the small theater is the only one that's actually still open, but that's where like you catch, a more independent film, so.
We did have several independent theaters reach out to us that wanted to show it.
Yeah.
But by the time that it was available for them, all the theaters were closed because of the pandemic rules and stuff. So it would have had a theatrical release for sure, but instead it had a virtual theatrical release. We got at, have you heard of Lemley's Theater? It's a really big indie theater chain in Los Angeles.
Oh, okay.
And we did play in their virtual theater. But we would have, if their theaters were open, we would have been in their theaters, which would have been amazing.
Gotcha. What do you think of this HBO Max deal with the movies coming direct out the same day as theater?
I mean, in this situation that we're in right now, you might as well. What's the difference? You can't delay all your movies, right? There's all kinds of legal stuff where if this doesn't happen by whatever date, then this won't happen. And, insurance, like, these guys, they try and, in Hollywood, all the Hollywood studios try and hedge all their bets. So they may spend $100 million making a movie, but they're going to also spend $100 million marketing the movie. And then if there's nowhere for it to show, even if just half of the theaters were closed, then they're like, oh, we have to kick into our insurance guarantee, because they spend money, however, I don't know how much, hundreds of thousands of dollars to have a guarantee that they won't lose that $100 million. So if it doesn't happen by a certain time, then the insurance kicks in. It's like super boring stuff, but I get why they have to put it out. So it's better for them. I'm sure that HBO is like, well, if we can get 1 million subscribers at $10 a month for this one movie, that's $10 million that we would have gotten $0 for otherwise.
You worry, or at least think, that this could lead the movie theater business to go the way of the Blockbuster business? Yeah.
I think it's going that way anyway.
Do you really?
Yeah.
Oh,
I
man,
think it's hurried things up. I think there will always be independent theaters.
Yeah.
I certainly hope so. But I don't see there being 2 or 3 huge theater chains anymore. I just don't see it.
So you think, like my grandchildren then will be watching your movie about how all these weirdos used to go sit with strangers in a room and watch a movie together? You think that's the direction?
Well, I won't be making that movie, but somebody will. Somebody will,
yeah.
I mean, I think there will still be theaters, just like there's still record stores.
Yeah.
I think it'll be like that. I like going. I would rather see a movie in the theater than at home anytime. The second I had a movie pass when movie pass was a thing. Yeah. And then when Regal started doing their own version of movie pass, it was like $30 a month or something. Yeah. Second they did that, I jumped on. And before that, I was going to the movies all the time anyway. But then once the movie pass and that came out, I was going to the movies 5, 6, 8 times a week. It's so much better.
Right. Well, just like the Blockbuster, there's a social experience to it. And, Dane Cook had a bit about it, but the trailer is just like, you can't talk, but you look at the person you're with, like, yeah, no, you know what I mean? That's
always a thumbs up or down. Always.
Yeah. That's all
my favorite part.
Yeah. And then you go out and you you more often than not might even tell people about the trailer you saw versus the movie you watched because something looks so great. You think, you didn't know it was coming out, and it's that'll be a sad day to me too, man. But I guess the world moves on.
And I'm an introvert. It's not like I like going out places. It's just something about that experience is genuinely magical.
Yeah.
The second that the big theater in town here, which was a Regal, closed because of the pandemic, I bought a projector and a 12-foot screen for my studio, and I set up my studio as theater so I could watch stuff big, and it's a good holdover.
Yeah.
I still look forward to going to the movies, but it's pretty great. So if you're missing the movies, set yourself up with a projector and a big screen.
Yeah, I've seen those for sale a lot more recently. Just even, dude, my local grocery store had one in the checkout, like where you're waiting in line for self-checkout, and they had, a screen available. I won't keep you too much longer. I know you said you only had about 40 minutes, and I really appreciate you coming through. What's the best movie you've seen recently besides your own?
That's a tough one. If I have a podcast, and if you ever listen to it, I think I say about 1 million times, I can never remember names of anything when I need to remember them. So definitely not Wonder Woman.
I was gonna watch that, and I'm not a big comic book movie guy, but just Christmas, and I always went to the movie theater on Christmas. It was always something that we did, and I was gonna watch that, and it got trashed. But like everybody I talked to said, like, hard pass on that. Every review I saw come out, and
I didn't get it. I didn't get what they were trying to do. It did not work for me.
Yeah, myself not being a big comic book movie. I was a big comic book kid, but comic book movies have never really hit for me. So yeah, I know that was HBO Max's big release, and I haven't seen it. I passed on it.
Yeah, I was super disappointed. My wife was so excited, and we didn't even finish it. We watched about half, and we were like, "Oh my goodness!"
Did you see Fat Man?
No.
It's Mel Gibson. It's one of the only new movies I've seen recently. New Mel Gibson plays Santa Claus, but it's kind of like a dark take on a Christmas movie. Some kid gets coal, and he hires a hitman to kill Santa. It's pretty dope, man. I would recommend that one. It's independent flick, and it's good, man. It's called Fat Man.
Nice. I saw. I'm not going to be able to remember what it was called, but I saw this really bizarre foreign film about a woman who falls in love with a roller coaster or a park ride, an amusement park ride. And it was very original, interesting. The end kind of fell apart for me, but it was fascinating to watch. It was I don't know if it was a French film, but it was very French.
Those French falling in love amusement rides, man. I don't know.
Yeah, like in a romantic way, falling in love with it. It was very interesting. And then over the summer I set the projector up outside, and I'd have a couple, like 2 or 3 friends over, and we'd all sit far apart and have masks on and watch the movie. And we watched it was I'm not going to be able to remember what it was called, but it was a Sherlock Holmes like sister or something.
Yeah.
And I think it was on Netflix, and it was Sherlock Holmes' sister, younger sister. And it was pretty good. I think it was very mainstream, but really good for mainstream.
All right, cool. I'll check that out. I got nothing but time right now, so I will check that out.
It was good. Cool. My son's 12, and he loved it, so we watched it mostly because it's a young main.
Yeah. My daughter's 13, so right on the money, man. What's the name of your podcast? I didn't know you had a podcast. Where can people check that out? Where can I check that out?
It's called Unwinder, and the website is weareunwinder.com. Okay. And the guy, Jared from the movie, who's the local movie reviewer here in town, him and I have guests on, and we talk about movies and stuff. And there's 26 episodes, and every single episode was recorded live in Blockbuster.
Oh, no way, man.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Fun.
Okay,
and
cool.
that guy, his knowledge of movies is insane. He's such a movie expert. It's crazy. He's seen. It's really difficult to stump him with a movie. He's seen almost everything.
Awesome. And I don't even think we said the name. So the film is The Last Blockbuster. Go buy the DVD. That's what we're plugging is the DVD. Yeah, but it is available.
Go to benblockbuster.com and buy the DVD and buy a t-shirt and a sweatshirt. I think you can still buy the hats that the manager's knitting by hand.
Oh yeah. That's awesome, bro. Man, I appreciate your time, man. I loved the movie, and I feel like, we kind of went off, hardly talked about the movie and more just about the actual Blockbuster experience, but leave something for people to go watch because the movie, if you're my age, it's right here, man. It all the feels, as the kids say.
Well, that was really the hope, was that people's cheeks would hurt from smiling and they would really feel warm and happy from watching it.
Awesome, man. Zeke, thank you so much for your time, brother. I appreciate you.
Thank
Great
you, buddy.
meeting you. All right, man. Thanks.
Thank you, man. Thanks.
All right, later.